Today in class, we worked on Unit 7, Lesson 5, Lines at the State Fair, where we explored ways to represent a pattern with an expression. We developed the idea of the second difference, and we're able to write the general expression for a pattern that's growing quadratically. In the Ready section of today's homework, we are asked to find the missing dimensions of a square given the area, and find the area of a square given the dimensions. In this first example, we're given an area of a square that is 121 centimeters squared. We're asking ourselves, what number can I multiply by itself to give me 121? And I know that that number is 11. 11 times 11 would equal 121 centimeters squared. Another way to think about this is to ask ourselves, what is the square root of the area, or what is the square root of 121? And we know that that is 11 centimeters. In the next example, we're given a side length of 7x feet. In order to find the area, we have to square the side length. We multiply 7x times 7x, and we get 49x squared feet squared. In the set portion of our homework, we're being asked to match the three patterns with their equations in explicit form. I can see that in the first figure of this pattern, there are 5 squares. In the second figure, there are 8 squares. And in the third figure, there are 13 squares. When I look at the number of squares in the center of each figure, I notice a relationship between that number and the figure number. If I square the figure number, I get the number of squares in the center of each figure. So if I square 1, I get 1 square in the center. If I square 2, I get 4 squares in the center. And if I square 3, I get 9 squares in the center. In each of the figures, I'm adding 4 additional squares to the outside of the figure. So if I take the number of squares in the center and I add 4 more to that, that's how I get my total number of squares. In other words, I'm squaring my figure number and then adding 4 to it. Squaring my figure number and adding 4 more to it. Squaring my figure number and adding 4 more to it. I'm starting with n, I'm squaring it, and I'm adding 4. In the Go section of our homework, we are solving literal equations for a given variable and applying the distributive property to simplify expressions. For the first part of the Go, we're going to be solving for a given variable. In this example, we're asked to solve for y. That means we need to isolate y. We're going to do that through inverse operations using the properties of equality. So we're asking ourselves, what's being done to the variable that I'm trying to isolate? We can see that 2 different operations are being done. It's being multiplied by 4, and this entire term is being added by 3x. So the very first thing that we're going to do is try to get rid of this term 3x. We know that this is an equation, which means that the value of the left side of the equation is equal to the value of the right. So I can't just take the 3x away from this side of the equation and keep this side equal to this side. If I take 3x away from this side of the equation, I also have to take it away from the right side of the equation. So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides of the equation. That will then leave me with 4x on the left side and 16 minus 3x on the right side. Again, I ask myself, what's being done to the variable that I'm trying to isolate? It's being multiplied by 4. I'm going to do the inverse operation of multiplication, which is division. I'm going to divide y by 4, or divide the left side of my equation by 4. If I divide the left side of my equation by 4, I then have to divide the right side of my equation by 4 in order to keep the equation balanced. When I do that, this is what my new equation looks like. Finally, I'm going to simplify. Remember, when you're dividing an entire side of your equation with multiple terms by a number, you're dividing each term by that number. When I divide 16 by 4, I get 4, and when I divide negative 3 by 4, I get negative 3/4. For the second portion of the Go section of your homework, you're going to be using the distributive property to simplify the expressions. This is similar to what we have done in several of the last few Ready, Set, Go homeworks. So if you would like more assistance on this or to review this, you can go back and rewatch the Ready and the Set sections of video 7.3 or Unit 7, Lesson 3.